with the moving of cows burdened by their udders, chasing after their calves, with the noise of milking, and the white calves jumping here and there, with the loud reverberation of flute playing, and with the singing of the all-auspicious deeds of Krishna and Balaram, by the cowherd men and women, who made the village resplendent with their wonderful ornamented attire. The cowherds' homes in Gokul appeared most charming, with their abundant paraphernalia for worship of the sacrificial fire, the sun, unexpected guests, the cows, the Brahmins, the forefathers, and the demigods. On all sides lay the flowering forest echoing with flocks of birds and swarms of bees, and beautified by its lakes crowded with swans, Karnadaf, ducks, and bowers of lotuses. So that's very, very joyful. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, Vraj is described in 5 verses, inspired by the desire potency, Ichat Shakti, of Krishna, who taught, let Uddhav see the splendor of my Vraj. Yoga Maya covered a particular manifestation of Vraj, which was merged in grief because of separation from Krishna, and undergoing the sanshari bhavas of disinterest, depression, and humility. And instead, Yoga Maya showed Uddhav a typical evening in Vraj in which Krishna present, charming, with the positive sentiments of joy, playfulness, eagerness, and enthusiasm. So, interesting is this. Uddhav arrives in Vrindavan, and he sees a very joyful Vrindavan, a blissful Vrindavan. And here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, yes, Krishna wanted Uddhav to experience the bliss of Vrindavan, and with his Yoga Maya potency, it showed him the blissful side of Vrindavan. It showed them the aprakat lila of Krishna, the unmanifested lila. There is an aprakat and an prakat lila, manifest and unmanifest. It's a little technical, but in the prakat lila, all the residents from Vrindavan feel separation from Krishna. In the aprakat lila, the unmanifest pastime, there is always union with Krishna. So there are two dimensions here. 2 dimensions. That the prakat and the aprakat lila. But Krishna showed the aprakat lila, where there is union with Krishna, and which is joyful to see and so beautiful. So therefore he wanted Uddhav to get to see the blissful Vrindavan first. But then when he will meet Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, he will enter the Prakrat Lila, where there are these feelings of separation. And where in the Prakrat Lila where are these feelings of separation, there appears to be suffering. But it is a higher experience of love. It's a higher form of spiritual enjoyment, ecstasy. And Uddhav will point that out a little later. So as soon as Uddhav arrived at Nanda Maharaj's home Nanda Maharaj came forward to meet him. The coward king embraced him in a great happiness and worshipped him as non-different from Lord Vasudeva. So we will now read 6-7 verses and the meeting with Uddhav and Nanda Maharaj. And after that, we will hear the deeper meanings from these words that have been spoken here. Deeper insights of our previous acharyas. After Uddhav had eaten first-class food, been seated comfortably on a bed, and been relieved of his fatigue by foot massage and other means, Nanda inquired from him as follows. So, the purport is interesting. This is the purport of Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur. Nanda fed Uddhav sweet rice, Paramanena. From the day that Krishna departed from Mathura, all the homes of the Vrajavasis were left unswept and dirty, filled with leaves, grass, dust, and spider webs. So that now is seeing the Prakrat Lila, the Vrindavana in separation from Krishna. That's the other Vrindavan. But on this day, one particular Brahman in Nanda's entourage understood that the king of Vraj was thinking, "Aha, when Uddhav comes to my house today, he should not suffer from hunger." Thus that Brahman took some chipped rice and cooked just enough sweet rice to feed one person. Massaging Uddhava's feet was performed by a servant, since Uddhav was Nanda Maharaj's nephew and therefore was an inferior. That's interesting. Nanda Maharaj said, "My dear most fortunate one, does the son of Sura, cannot read, farewell? Now that he is free and has rejoined his children and other relatives. Fortunately, because of his own sins, the sinful Kamsa is being killed, along with all his brothers. He always hated the saintly and righteous Yadus. Does Krishna remember us? Does he remember his mother and his friends and his well-wishers? Does he remember the cowards and their village of Vraj, of which he is the master? Does he remember the cows, Vrindavan forest and Govardhan hill? Will Govinda return even once to see his family? If he ever does, we may then glance upon his beautiful face with its beautiful eyes, nose and smile. That we were saved from the forest fire, the wind rain, the bull and serpent demons, from all such insurmountable deadly dangers by that very great soul Krishna. As we remember the wonderful deeds Krishna performed, his playful sidelong glances, his smiles and his words, O Uddhav, we forget all other material engagements. When we see the places where Mukunda enjoyed his sporting pastimes, the rivers, hills and forests he decorated with his feet, our minds become totally absorbed in him. In my opinion, Krishna and Balaram must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods. Such was foretold by Gargarishi. After all, Krishna and Balaram killed Kamsa, who was as strong as 10,000 elephants, as well as the wrestlers Shanura and Mustika and the elephants Kuvalayapida. They killed them all sportingly and easily, as a lion disposes of small animals. With the ease of a royal elephant breaking a stick, Krishna broke the powerful giant bow 3 talas long. He also held a mountain aloft for 7 days with just one hand. Here in Vrindavan, Krishna and Balaram easily destroyed demons like Pralamba, Dhenuka, Arista, Trinavarta, and Baka, and who themselves defeated both demigods and other demons. Then Sukadev Goswami said, thus intensely remembering Krishna again and again, Nanda Maharaj, his mind completely attached to the Lord, felt extreme anxiety and felt silent, overcome by the strength of his words. As Mother Yasoda heard the descriptions of her son's activities, she poured out her tears, and milk flowed from her breast out of love. So these are commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So, becoming completely attached to Krishna by remembering the Lord's majesty, Aishvarya, Nanda Maharaj thought, oh, by misfortune, I've been separated from my son, who is the ocean of powerful qualities. Nanda's attachment to Krishna was such that even in appreciating Krishna's great powers as the Lord, his personal relationship with Krishna did not weaken as he did with Vasudeva. When, after killing Kamsa, Krishna and Balaram went to see Vasudeva and Devaki, and they came complete in awe and reverence. They understood he is the Supreme Lord, the source of everything. And that diminished their prema, their love for Krishna. And Krishna did not like it. He used his yoga maya to give them, to inspire them, to his spiritual energy, to increase their motherly affection. But here Nanda Maharaj, even hearing all these things, has no effect on his love for Krishna. It does not diminish the least. No effect, really. That's interesting. Then, yes. Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj, having thus controlled himself by the strength of his gravity, was now able to honor Uddhav properly as guest. So he came a bit to external consciousness. To look at him directly, to recognize him, inquiring about his well-being, and to speak about Krishna's godly qualities. Krishna's mother Yasoda, however, who was drowning in the whirlpools of the ocean of unsteadiness, could not offer any hospitality to Uddhav. This is expressed in this verse. From that very day that Krishna left for Mathura, tears fell continuously from Yasoda's eyes, and milk dripped from her breast, even though she was being counseled by hundreds of women and men. Yasoda would just say, I don't want to see anything except the face of my son. At every moment, Yasoda kept her eyes closed and cried, constantly drenching her clothing. Thus, she could not recognize Uddhav, treat him with parental affection, ask him any question, or give him any message for her son. Her breast flowed profusely with milk out of affection for her son. Payodar also means cloud. Yasoda was like a cloud showering the rain of tears and milk. So we see here the power of the love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, that the residents of Vrindavana, they don't know anything about Aishvarya or opulence, that they see it all the time. Krishna has killed so many demons and so on, all his power. But when he was just a baby, he killed Trinavarta. So they know Krishna's potency. what is the speciality of the love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda? That it is that how much they are aware of Krishna's power and hearing these words of Gargamuni. Now Gargamuni, he did the name ceremony in Krishna in the Kaushad, and he said to Nanda Maharaj, this Krishna will be equal to Narayan, he said. And he will always protect you, but never stop loving him as your son. And that's, of course, Nanda Maharaj has concentrate on the last part. Never stop loving him as your son. So that's the speciality of love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda. That is, no matter how much they are aware of Krishna's power and hearing these words of Gargamuni, Gargamuni said that he took birth to protect the demigods, and they accepted that. But that awareness could not diminish their paternal and maternal love. It could not diminish the feeling that of Mother Yasoda that I'm Krishna's mother. That he is ours. This is our village boy. If we don't feed him, what will happen to him? So that is the power of Braja Prema. When Vasudeva and Devaki, how glorious as they are, became aware of Krishna's Aishvarya, they entered a state of awe and reverence. They became reverent. So these are one of the reasons why Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gave that if this was manifest in Mathura and Vrindavana, then they would not think as Krishna as exclusively as their own. How far was again Vrindavan from Mathura? 35 kilometers. It's not so far, huh? So why did Krishna not come to Vrindavan? There is a reason for that. We will hear that. So, because the mood of Aishvarya in Mathura and the mood of parental love and this mood of Braja Prema, they are just not compatible with each other. In Mathura, everyone sees Krishna as a Yadu, as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. So yes, they seem like that. But the Vrajavasis never think like that. He's the son of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. And Gopis think he's our lover. That completely different mood is one of ours. And it's not compatible. That if Nanda Maharaj would be directly confronted with Vasudeva, that becomes, when Krishna is present, that would be problematic. Because for Nanda Maharaj, in our relationship with Krishna, we have all a specific relationship. And it's a relationship as a servant, but what kind of servant? Goloka Vrindavan, yeah. serving in awe and reverence, then you are in Vaikuntha. That's a servant but seeing Krishna as one's friend, Sakhyaras, that there are different kinds of relations in Sakhyaras, in friendship with Krishna. And we'll hear of them on Friday evening, Krishna will. Then we will look in our relationship with Sakhyaras. But this relationship, the relationship in which Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda was situated, Krishna is my son. And that is more powerful than any other consideration of Krishna. Why? Because that is their sthai bhav. Nectar of devotion, you find sthai bhav. Sthai bhav means permanent ecstasy, permanent relationship, permanent ecstasy. That's the sthai bhav. And other rasis may come in and may go, but this sthai bhav stays. And that's Nanda Maharaj's sthai bhav. Is prema. Yeah, Nanda Maharaj's prema. Yes. Cannot be overwhelmed by this Aishvarya. So, it's text 29. Now, Uddhav is going to respond to Nanda Maharaj. So he has heard all these words from Nanda Maharaj. And what is Uddhav's emotion in his response? So it said here, text 29, Uddhav then joyfully addressed Nanda Maharaj, having clearly seen the supreme loving attraction he and Yasoda felt for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he joyfully addressed. Joyfully. So he's joyful because he sees this anurag, that great attachment to Krishna, an amazing attraction to Krishna. Nanda Maharaj cannot think of anything else at every moment than Krishna, my son. This attraction to Krishna, by this attraction that Nanda Maharaj had for Krishna, he experienced great joy. That if Nanda Maharaj should have suffered, how could Uddhav be joyful? So this point shows that if they are actually suffering, as it appears that Nanda and Mother Yasoda were suffering, then why would Uddhav experience joy? All love for Krishna causes ecstasy. If we read into the emotions that we see with our own consciousness, we have experienced this type of emotion only on the material level. And thus we see it as suffering for the material world, because that's our experience. This emotion of suffering is experienced by Nanda Maharaj. It's an emotion, but it's ecstatic. An experience of love. And also Mother Yasoda and the gopis, they experience that. They experience the highest ecstasy, that's called here anurag. Anurag. In prema, you have 7 stages. Sneha, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhava, mabhav, I forget one. But they are experienced the highest ecstasy, anurag. It's fully based on their loving relationship with Krishna. They have the deepest affection for Krishna. It is a form of spiritual ecstasy, although externally it takes the form of extreme suffering. That we need to understand very deeply. That so it doesn't look as fun because they are all crying. Now, text 29. Yeah, we just read. Our mind has not such an experience on this level. So we can accept this only intellectually. But our mind will still maintain fear. Our mind is filled with fear until we have these deep spiritual experiences. That some fear will be there. Now I have a comment here of Jiva Goswami on this verse. Most of these commentaries come from the Satsandarbhas, and there he refers to these verses of the Bhagavatam of the 10th canto. So this is Jiva Goswami. With joy Uddhav says, "O my good fortune, that I behold this sight, he seeing the ecstasy of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, and thinking that this is his greatest fortune. Such ideas implied by his exhibition of joy. He did not rather exhibit unhappiness by seeing their unhappiness, because for Uddhav, the opulent aspect of Krishna's manifestation was predominant. The opulent aspect of even his parents' affection to him was manifest to him, and not the aspect of their anxiety." It's interesting. Uddhav sees their bliss, not their anxiety. So he saw their affection, not their anxiety. By Krishna's arrangement, after all, if he would have experienced this aspect of anxiety, he would not have been capable of pacifying them, which was the service he was given, to console, to pacify, which means to make peaceful. Their consciousness minds are anything but peaceful. So also, we have Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur commenting on this verse. Although Uddhav was already familiar with high levels of prema, now he clearly observed Viksha, Nanda and Yasoda's intense loving attraction for Krishna. Seeing that both in quantity and quality their love was superior to that of Vasudeva and Devaki, Uddhav became filled with bliss and thought, "Now my life has become successful." Having seen such love, thus Uddhav was joyful, even at seeing their anguish, which was actually another form of loving ecstasy. So now we will hear and continue hearing about Uddhav's visit to Vrindavan. And he comes, we have heard in the first part, Krishna tells Uddhav about the residence of Vrindavan.
Is it possible to ask a question according to the section in which you are? Not sure if I got it right. According to Jiva Goswami, he's saying that Uddhava was acting joyfully because he had the mission of pacifying them, and if he would have been affected by their sadness and feel sad, also he would not have been able to help? Or
not 100%. What Shiva Goswami is saying, what I understood from it, is that, yes, Uddhav, because he was already an advanced devotee, he could see their ecstasy, and their joy of that ecstasy, and the anxiety part was a feeling, but it was not suffering. It's a spiritual feeling, not suffering. If he would have seen it as anxiety in this world, which comes from attachment to things in this world, then that would have filled his consciousness, if he has been in that material consciousness, would have filled his heart with anxiety. And then that would make him incapable to console others and help others. That is what I understand from Shiva Goswami.
So if he would have seen from a material perspective,
yeah,
then he would have been overcome by the emotion and
yeah,
lost.
what name? Yeah. Mm. So interesting. This is the residents of Vrindavan. They feel separation from Krishna, but what does Krishna feel towards them? Our acharyas explained that Krishna is always missing, feeling great separation from the residents of Vrindavan, because it is love that captivates us. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everything that we possess, he possesses in full. This tendency to be captivated by love is within each and every living entity, so also in Krishna. Because love makes me trustworthy too. We don't reveal our hearts and minds to someone we can't trust. We will be misused. If someone loves us, we perceive that they love us, then naturally we can open our hearts. We can open our hearts to them completely. Love and trust are ultimately connected. Krishna was completely captivated by the residents of Vrindavana because he was in Mathura. He had no one to speak about the love of the people of Vrindavana. Therefore he sent Uddhav to learn about the highest limit of love, especially the love of the Braja Gopikas. So in the first part of the chapter, Uddhav hears from Krishna himself about his mission to go to Vrindavan. And when did Krishna actually leave Vrindavan? That was before. In chapter 31, I think, Akrura comes to Vrindavan. And Akrura falls down in the dust of Vrindavan, which is marked with Krishna's footprints. Because that is the speciality of the dust of Vrindavan. It is marked with the footprints of Krishna. And all the residents of Vrindavan would respect even the animals. They would respect Krishna's footprints. And they would not step over them. They wouldn't brush them aside, because the footprints remind you of that person. So we can say that the footprints of Krishna in Vrindavan remind the residents of Vrindavan of Krishna. But it is more than that too. The footprints of Krishna in the dust of Vrindavan were different from Krishna. When Akrura saw the footprints of Krishna, then he rolled in the dust of Vrindavan. That was chapter, no, not 31, but 38. He rolled in those footprints and became ecstatic. It is important, as at the end of this chapter, this point will come up. After speaking to Krishna and Balaram and telling about his mission to bring on behalf of Kamsa Krishna back to Vrindavan, to Mathura, to kill him. And what did Krishna and Balaram do when Mathura told Krishna and Balaram about this mission? You remember? When Mathura said to Krishna and Balaram, I will bring you to Mathura for the wrestling match because Kamsa wants to kill you. What was the response of Krishna and Balaram? They laughed. Yes. That. The whole festival of the wrestling match, etc., was arranged as a pretext to entice Krishna to come. The elephant, the wrestlers, etc., would kill Krishna. So what did Krishna and Balaram do when they heard of Kamsa's plans to kill him? They laughed loud, because it was a ridiculous plan. In chapter 39, the coward man left for the great festival in Mathura, and Krishna and Balaram mounted a chariot. Chapter 39. Now, back to this chapter. In this chapter, the intimate prayers of the gopis are described. They were begging Krishna and tried to stop him one way or another. Yeah, that was still chapter 38. They were amazed that the elderly members of the coward community, Nanda and Yasoda, that they were allowing Krishna to leave. The nature of the gopis' love for Krishna was that the blinking of their eyes would cause them the greatest anxiety. That's also the mode of Lord Chaitanya. Nimeshena, this morning we heard, Sikshastakam, even a moment of separation, they can bear. Not even the blinking of an eye. We can't imagine what the consciousness of the residents and the gopis of Vrindavan is like, because our consciousness is material. Material consciousness is like a zero. If you put so many zeros together, you end up with zero. You can't reach the spiritual realm just by imagining with our material consciousness. Yet we can think that if it is like this, or just imagine if it seems like this. Just imagine what their love was like. The intensity of love that would have to be in our consciousness, this intensity of love. That we are missing someone to that degree that the blinking of our eyes causes us tremendous anxiety. And that the blinking of our eyes seems infinitely long, and therefore in the 38th chapter they cursed Brahma. They criticized him for giving eyes that blink, when the purpose of the eyes is to see Krishna. Then after giving eyes, making them so imperfect that they blink, just imagine the consciousness of the residents of Vrindavan and of the Vraja Gopikas. How much they love Krishna. And it is love for Krishna, not knowing Krishna. This is not philosophy. But it is love for Krishna what is the purpose of what we are doing. Love for Krishna manifesting in seva or service for Krishna, that's called bhakti. And it is by the process of doing something for Krishna's pleasure. In this world, we are doing things only for the pleasure of me. I'm the center of this illusory universe. In the spiritual world, however, the residents of Vrindavan are doing whatever externally appears that they are doing. Sometimes the gopis are dressing themselves. They are combing their hairs. but the purpose of what they are doing is to please Krishna. So we get here a deeper insight of the consciousness of the Vrajavasis. And in this world, for anyone who has a false ego, it does not make the difference of what it appears, what they are doing. The purpose is selfish, just to please me. That is called Maya, because pleasing me, attempting to please me, never actually pleases me at all. Because who am I? I'm Krishna's. So only when I'm awake to whom I actually am, in our loving relationship with Krishna, do I actually become pleased, satisfied? That's a very important sentence. I will read it again. So only when I'm awake to whom I actually am, in our loving relationship with Krishna, do I actually become pleased, satisfied. So the perfection of this is the residence of Vrindavan. The gopis were so overwhelmed when Krishna was leaving to Mathura. They were so overwhelmed with love of Krishna. All they could do was cry out to Krishna. They were praying to the demigods to create some disaster, and they tried to stop Krishna. When Krishna left with Akrura, their life heirs rested with Krishna. They would have died. They were Krishna conscious. They were only conscious of Krishna. This is love for Krishna. They were only conscious of Krishna. And everything else was in relationship to Krishna. So what kept them alive was that Krishna sent a message to them, I'm coming back soon. It was what which kept the gopis alive. When Uddhav then came in this chapter 46, Krishna sends Uddhav back to Vrindavan to console the residents of Vrindavan. He had specific qualifications that allowed him to do that. He's so intelligent, he's Krishna's friend, he's very intimate with Krishna, and he looks like Krishna. He's wearing yellow cloth as Krishna wears. What is his relationship with Krishna? He's a cousin brother. He was a son of Vasudeva's brother, Devabhar. He was a great devotee of Krishna, and he looked like Krishna. He was so intelligent, and Krishna considered him as a friend, and he loved Krishna so much. Krishna was the best of the Yadu dynasty, but he loved Krishna on the level of the Yadus and Vrishnis, who thought themselves the most fortunate because Krishna was their relative. That it is naturally to love one's family members. In Kali Yuga, everything is so crazy that it doesn't quite work like that. But it is completely natural. In Kali Yuga, everyone is missing this kind of natural love that makes them secure in a proper way, able to love Krishna in a natural, simple way. In the first part of the 46th chapter, Krishna sends Uddhav, and Uddhav arrives in Vrindavan, and he sees the aprakat Vrindavan, unmanifest to our vision. He sees blossoming, beautiful Vrindavan. He sees Vrindavan with Krishna actually there. Vrindavan is beautiful and blossoming, and every living entity is in ecstasy. And everyone was thinking about Krishna. And then that aprakat, or unmanifest to the ordinary vision, the Vrindavan, redraws the aprakat, and he enters the Vrindavan that Krishna had left. These are both going on simultaneously, aprakat and prakat, unmanifest and manifest. There is a Vrindavan where the residents of Vrindavan are feeling separation from Krishna, prakat, and there is, by the virtue of their feelings of separation from Krishna, they can't think of anything but Krishna and the madness of their ecstasy and the stunnedness of their ecstasy. And they get full access to associating with Krishna in aprakat, the unmanifested Vrindavan. Now, this is important to understand. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Shiva Goswami explains that there are three types of living entities in Vrindavan. those who have anxiety and enthusiasm, and those who are indiscriminate, and those who are trusting. 3 types. While Krishna was in Mathura, two of those were able to always experience Krishna as if he was there. So what Shiva Goswami says here, there are 3 kinds of entities in Vrindavan that says those who are indiscriminate, those who are trusting, and those who are full of anxiety and enthusiasm. We'll look at this now. Well, Krishna was in Mathura, Krishna, as if he was there. And so, while Krishna was in Mathura, 2 of those were able to always experience Krishna if he was there. 2 of them. By their feelings of separation of Krishna, they were able to enter the aprakat lila. That's interesting. Feelings of separation of Krishna, intense feelings of separation, gives us access to the aprakat lila of Krishna. And that is what Lord Chaitanya gave us. Serving in separation. Intense feelings of separation gives access to the aprakat lila of Krishna. But only for 2 of these 3. Interesting. And when the anxiety enthusiastic, the gopis and the parents of Krishna, they could not experience Krishna, but were merged into an ocean of ecstatic separation from Krishna, of madness, of ecstasy, which was on the highest level. They could not. They remained in the prakat lila, but they had a higher ecstasy, a higher spiritual enjoyment. Not easy to understand. So when Uddhav came, he first saw his aprakat, where there is no separation from Krishna. Then he went to the home of Nanda and Yasoda. Nanda Maharaj somehow or other was able to greet Uddhav and speak to Uddhav about Krishna. The questions he asked, which were very heart-touching, he was able to control himself to some degree due to his gravity, but Mother Yasoda couldn't say anything. She couldn't say anything. She couldn't greet Uddhav because he was simply crying and milk flowing from her breast out of motherly affection. This was the nature of the ecstasy that she was feeling. Nanda Maharaj said, Krishna protected her so many times. Can't he come and protect us from this burning fire of separation? But within that ecstasy is experienced Krishna, but in a level that we will speak about at the end of our seminar. The highest level, only acceptable by the parents of Krishna and the Vraja Gopis. We'll hear about that tomorrow. The highest love for Krishna, Mahabhav. Then Uddhav sees Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda and so much ecstasy, but with burning separation, Viraha Bhav, and he knows that it is his duty to console them, to cool them down, because it was what Krishna asked them to do. So now there are 14 verses that Uddhav speaks to Nanda and Yasoda. We'll not discuss them today or tomorrow, but the only thing what I say about these 14 verses, that so Uddhav thinks if I tell them about Krishna's factual position as a super soul and so on in this world, then their love for Krishna will diminish and their suffering will diminish. That was his idea, but it didn't work out. It had no effect on Krishna and Mother Yasoda. So like in the first verses, he's going to glorify Krishna, how wonderful Krishna is, and then true that is going to glorify the fortune of Nanda and Yasoda. Because if Krishna is so wonderful, and thinking about Krishna is so wonderful and fortunate, the conscience of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj is fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna out of love, and so on. That anyway, it is a serious subject matter. Goes very deep, but I think I try to give you an insight in the love and the consciousness of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda. And tomorrow we will hear about the Braja Gopikas and their consciousness. So any question, comments? That, yes.
Maybe a reflection. I never thought I knew about prakat and aprakat, but I always thought prakat is when Krishna is there, and aprakat is when Krishna is not there. But here Krishna is in Vrindavana. I mean, he's in Mathura, but still the prakat and the aprakat can manifest, and this was something.
In the aprakat lila is going constantly. Now also in Vrindavan, constantly. And then Krishna leaves for Mathura, but he comes immediately back. So Krishna never leaves Vrindavan in the aprakat lila. And that is also these unmanifested pastimes are the pastimes also of Goloka Vrindavan. That you remember that in the Nectar of Instruction, in verse 8, one should 24 hours be absorbed in the nectarian sound of hearing the holy names and so on. In that purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about Varanadasa and then Smaranavasta, 5 stages of remembering Krishna. So for us as sadhakas, if we become a little advanced, then sometimes we remember Krishna when we chant Hare Krishna, and sometimes we forget it. But if we make advancement, the periods that we remember Krishna become longer, and the periods that we forget Krishna become shorter. And then at a certain moment, as the third phase, our remembrance becomes constant. And then the remembrance becomes deeper. And then that's the point of Ashakti. Krishna reveals him within the heart. He first reveals his form of our Istadeva, in our relationship with Krishna. His form, and then his beauty, his sweetness. And then we see Krishna is not alone. He's in a holy dham, and you see the parrots and the trees, and you see associates, and you enter the lila, the activities that are going on. That is entering the aprakat lila. And that's always going on. The prakrat is when Krishna is here in Vrindavan. That's on the year 5,000 years. It was the prakrat lila there. But still, even during that time, also the aprakat was going on, because that's eternal. So that is the point. And that is what Krishna will say to the gopis. We will hear that tomorrow. If we come there. But anyway, this is a vast matter. We can give 30 days seminars on that chapter. It's going so deep. I'm just taking a small selection of some commentaries of that, because after studying it, I felt I'm going to share some of these nectar points with you all. That was my only idea. that I didn't realize any of these things, but it's but you get the knowledge of the previous acharyas and you get a good idea of what's the goal, and that's important. Prayojan, what's the goal? What are we? What do we want to attain in Krishna consciousness? And here you have the perfection explained, and but of course, Bhujan Prabhu says also, I read some of his commentaries, Bhujan Prabhu says, yeah, we cannot understand it. We are full of anxiety in this world and it's suffering. But on the spiritual platform, this anxiety for Krishna is ecstasy, it's not suffering. And we filter that through our consciousness in a wrong way. But it's ecstasy. Because on the spiritual platform, this anxiety is a spiritual emotion that makes it more intense. But there is no anxiety. Anxiety comes when we are attached to this material world and attached to this body and so many things. But there is no duality on that platform. There is only love. But Krishna must become the center of our lives. Something else? Okay, then tomorrow we hear. Yes, please. Hare Krishna.
I'm only 5 years in Krishna consciousness, and my spiritual master allowed me 3 years ago to worship a Gopal deity. How can I learn to develop a parental affection to Gopal? For a beginner, he's the highest personality of Godhead, and on the other side, I'm not a mother. I don't have children. I mean, it has something to do with this. How can I learn to learn this parental affection? And the second question is how to deal with this hankering when it is suffering.
Yeah. In the processes of devotional services from prema, from Shraddha to prema, there are 9 stages. The first 4 stages are on the conditional stage. Thus, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, which is the beginning of it's the purification of the heart, and then Nishta. So these are on the conditions platform, and all the symptoms are described in Madhurya Kandambini. But to purify our heart and to practically completely free from lust, anger, greed, and envy, and so on, that takes usually a time, like 30, 40 years. And after that, when you come to the Brahma Buddha platform, you are free from the body concept of life, then your attraction for Krishna will grow very quickly, ruchi. Very quickly, your mind will become attracted like a magnet. And when our mind becomes attracted, then we come to the stage of asakti. And asakti is a stage where Krishna reveals himself. It's nothing we can do about it. Krishna will reveal himself. That's not something we can achieve. And then our relationship with Krishna will be revealed at that moment, will be revealed. It means our relationship with Krishna is via das, but what kind of servant of Krishna? It's revealed them. And then, when that starts to be revealed, then you can perform Raganuga Bhakti. and cultivate what is already, what begins to be, what is revealed. The beginning is already revealed. Then you can cultivate Raga Nuga Bhakti. And Raga Nuga Bhakti is following in the footstep of a Ragatmika Bhakta, a perfected residence of Vrindavana. And these Ragatmika Bhaktas we are discussing right now. They are Mother Yasoda, they are the Gopis, and Friday we will speak about Sakya Bhav. That if we try to develop this Raganuga Bhakti before Krishna reveals it, that will go wrong. Prabhupada says, don't do that. They try to do it. Gopi Baba Club, yes. But Krishna reveals your relationship quite early. The feeling is there. But with a full realization, that takes one.
But you said the conditioning stage lasts 30 to 40
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
Already 50, then that's very not so sure that I will.
I don't know. That is not directly an sound conclusion, I would say. Devotional service goes over many lifetimes. And quickly you come to the level where you were in the previous lifetime. So I don't know what your level is, but you can know your level at the symptoms by understanding these stages. You can know. If you are still lamenting for things in this world, what went wrong, and you have still plans to enjoy in this world, you are not at the level of Nistha. Then it's dangerous to go into Raganuga Bhakti. That will work averse, I would say. You will get the contrary result. Instead of become purified, you will become putrefied. That's what Prabhupada is having, but it's like that. It's something to be very careful with. But my goal is not, from that seminar, is not that we should hunger for this Raganuga, that will be revealed, but to get a good understanding of the goal. And that will help us to hunger for that, and this hankering will purify us. Understand that? So in that sense it is very beneficial. We know what we are into. And it's not easy to understand. That's what Bhujan Prabhu said. Not easy to understand what we are really into. That to understand this consciousness of these Braja Gopis, we will hear tomorrow. Does that help to understand? Thank you. You agree with what I said?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.